Vanessa Masilo is a young, ambitious, driven, actually overly ambitious, young woman from a small town in the Free State called Parys. Born and bred in Parys, grew up in Parys, went to school in the Vaal, went to primary school in the Vaal, went to high school in the Vaal, Sasolburg, and went to varsity in the Vaal. So I've practically stayed in the Vaal my entire life. She's just a woman that is obsessed with other women, obsessed with the empowerment of other women, obsessed with the emancipation of women from an economic perspective to a personal perspective. I love women. I love seeing women win. I love seeing women grow, and I concern myself with the empowerment of women in its entirety. I make it my personal responsibility and mission to empower other women. So women empowerment for me is not a hashtag. It's not something that I feel is a cool movement to follow on social media, but it's something that I practice in my daily life. So I am just a young woman that is ambitious, that has big dreams, but more than anything that is obsessed with the empowerment and emancipation of women, young women to be precise. I don't want to make it racial and say young black African women, but to be quite honest, black women, because I'm a black woman myself. So that is me in a nutshell. Before I wear the hat of an entrepreneur, an industrialist, an activist, I am a mother to the most beautiful, stunning baby girl. Her name is Oratile. And being a mother has just taught me a lot also. It has shown me in more than one ways that I'm actually a homemaker. And, sometimes as a young black female, we're so used to fighting battles. We're so used to constantly having to defend ourselves. Our walls are just always so high up. But motherhood has tamed me. Motherhood has reminded me that it is okay to be a woman and to be vulnerable and to be emotional and, to be, I won't say weak, but you don't always have to, your walls don't always have to be so high up. It is okay for you to just let your guard down a little, love a little, and just be emotional. Women are emotional beings, and motherhood has really taken out that side of me. I call myself a superwoman. I call myself a young Oprah in the making. So I constantly have to be strong for everybody. But motherhood has introduced me to the concept of allowing myself to be a woman and to just sit in my womanhood and enjoy being a woman, and more than anything, go through what women go through without always having to feel like I have to put up a visage, I have to be strong, I have to be, I can't be weak. Motherhood has just embraced, or rather helped me embrace womanhood. And it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. My child is my biggest achievement to date. And I really wouldn't trade this experience for anything. If I knew how amazing motherhood was, I think I would have probably had my daughter years ago. But the focused person I was, I had to get things done. I had to get certain things in place before embarking on the journey of motherhood. But yeah, motherhood has just taught me that it is okay to be a woman, and you don't constantly have to be the strong one that's fighting all the time and that's trying to save the world. It is okay to be an emotional being that has a weakness, that, is not afraid to show her weakness. So motherhood has really, it's done good for me. So over and above being such an overachiever, I'm really just a family-orientated woman, an all-rounder in every sense of the word, a homemaker, an ambitious woman, but I'm also always ready to fight battles in the boardroom, and I'm always ready to fight for a woman's place at the table. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell. My academic journey has been a very interesting one. Sometimes in life you think you know what you want to do until you are exposed to certain things, that actually remind you that no, this is where your path is. This is where your destiny lies. This is actually what your purpose is. So I basically started out as an accounting student, a chartered accountancy student, and I later changed to management accounting. I studied at the Northwest University in the Vaal Triangle campus. I actually abandoned my studies in my last year, having only 3 modules left to graduate. And I know some people, feel like I wasted my time and I wasted money, but trust me, I wouldn't, if I had the choice and if I had the chance to go back, I wouldn't change anything about the way things turned out and the direction I took. Initially, I wanted to study BSc Mathematics because I couldn't qualify for actuarial science. So BSc Mathematics was my next, or rather my second best option, which I was accepted for at UJ. But my parents felt that the world needed more chartered accountants. South Africa needed more chartered accountants. So like any other teenager, I obviously gave in to what my parents wanted and I followed their dreams, which is one thing I've also learned, over time. Often not as parents, we want to live our lives and we want to go for our dreams. We want to live our lives through our kids, and that is the worst mistake ever. I didn't finish my accounting degree because it was never my first option. I think if it's something that I wanted to do, I would have fought for it till the end. And I had 3 modules left. I really would have given it, all my time and all my energy and just finished those 3 modules and graduated. But because it was never something I was passionate about from the beginning, it was easy for me to walk away from it. Nevertheless, it came in very handy because in my businesses, my accounting really helped. At some point I had an accountant that every time that person came back with work, I would have to review it. I would have to correct it because I had knowledge. I was knowledgeable. I had studied this thing in school. So I would challenge him. As a qualified chartered accountant, as a CA, I would challenge his work. I would challenge, certain things. And that's why I say my education was an investment. The fact that I had 3 modules left before I graduated, for me, I don't see it as wasted time, but I see it as an investment that was necessary for my journey in entrepreneurship, It really equipped me, it really prepared me, and it just put me in a better position because as business owners, you want to be in charge of your finances. You want to be in charge of, where your money goes. You want to have a say, rather. In the planning and the budgeting, you really just want to be hands-on and in charge of the finances. So for me, it really helped. And yeah, if I could go back and do things differently, honestly, I wouldn't do anything differently. And yeah, that's where I started. I later did a course with UCT, which was an occupational health and safety course. As you know, one of my divisions in Crystal Clear Visions is OHS. In fact, our OHS division is our biggest revenue maker in the company. I felt I had to really invest in myself and invest in the business and equip myself with the necessary skills and knowledge that would assist me in running a successful occupational health and safety business. OHS is a very specialized field. It requires highly skilled individuals, and you can't always rely on your managers to run your operations, to run your business for you. You have to be an involved business owner. And I believe, especially in the beginning, you have to be very involved. You have to understand the work. You have to understand the systems. You really just have to be entrenched in your work. And that is one of the reasons why I felt I needed to get some sort of formal education on this business. My strength is business development. When it comes to execution, I have highly qualified and skilled professionals that have years of experience in the field. But I also felt it is important for me to be involved and to be part of the conversation, Operating at a strategic level alone is not good enough. But some people believe, they don't really have to get involved. They don't really have to get their hands dirty. I've always wanted to get my hands dirty. I've always wanted to be involved. I've always wanted to know the systems and the operations from A to Z. So I went and I did an OHS course, which I passed, got qualified for. Future plans is studying an LLB. In fact, I'm starting now in June. I was conflicted between going the MBA route or the LLB route. I've always wanted to study law as well, funny enough. So I felt, look, I'm still young and the sky's not even the limit. I've got time on my hands. So why not, We'll definitely do the MBA later on in life. But for now, I'll be pursuing my LLB law. Yeah, hopefully in the next 3 years, when you guys come and interview me, I will have my LLB in the bag and we'll be saying a completely different story. But yeah, so that's my academic record. Look, I have worked in corporate before. I worked for EOH. I started working at Ecosi Technologies, an IT company. And I then went to go work for EOH. And yeah, corporate was a different experience. Corporate really gave me a head start. Corporate really gave me a foundation. Corporate taught me a lot. Corporate taught me principles that I feel had I not learned, I wouldn't be a successful business person. So I'm truly grateful for the time I spent in corporate. I learned a lot, and I really believe that it contributed a lot to the person that I am, the business principles that I uphold to date. So working in corporate was challenging, but it was fun. I must say that it was boring. I really was frustrated at some point. I wasn't patient enough, I could not understand why I had to be reduced to a title. When you're a young person with so many ideas, with so much energy, and you sit in a boardroom and a problem is presented, but you can't really raise your voice because you are reduced to a title. That for me was frustrating. The fact that I couldn't do more in the corporate space because I had to toe the line. Yeah, the young, wild, ambitious person, I couldn't take it. It was just, I couldn't operate in a confined space. Corporate was just, I was suffocating in corporate, I can say. I was suffocating. In the beginning, it was fun. There was a lot to learn. But, once you've learned, look, learning never stops. But, once you get the hang of things, it becomes a routine. And that's just how it is in the workspace. It becomes a routine. You wake up, you go to work, you do the same thing you did yesterday. And I just couldn't take it. I felt I wanted new challenges. I wanted bigger challenges. But unfortunately, in corporate, it takes time. You don't just climb up the ladder. It takes time. The next person has to recognize you. The next person has to congratulate you, clap hands for you. And I just felt I was too great. I was too big for that. So that's one of the reasons why I eventually left corporate and I resigned and I focused fully on my business, because I felt I had so much to offer. I had too much to offer, and I wasn't patient enough for corporate to recognize me, to recognize my abilities, to recognize my talents, to recognize my strengths. And I also wasn't willing to put in all my time and my energy into building someone else's empire when I had my own empire to build. So yeah, corporate for me was really helpful, but I suffocated in corporate. I really did. To be quite honest with you, I decided to start this business because menstrual hygiene is very close to my heart. Having mentored girls, having run programs in townships where I used to assist young girls, I got exposed to the problem statement, and I felt that it was my responsibility to do something about it, to put an end to period poverty. I used to have girls that couldn't attend classes, that couldn't attend events, that couldn't attend sessions because they were on their periods and they couldn't access sanitary towels. And for me, I felt, I can't just sit back and do nothing about it. For someone like me, buying a pack of pads is just a 20 Rand expense in a grocery list, in a grocery bucket full of food, full of groceries, But for these girls, the opportunity cost is a loaf of bread for the family, a loaf of bread and milk for the family. So obviously, no one's going to prioritize your sanitary towels when, and people are hungry. So I felt it's pretty unfair. Number one, because no young girl, no woman should be subjected to period poverty. Menstruation is a natural biological process. We should not be shamed for it. We should not be marginalized. We should not be excluded from being part of the society because of a natural process that happens, that takes place, And I just felt, let me do something about it. And I started running pad drives. I started getting donations from people, started doing events. But that also wasn't sustainable because I depended on the next person to understand the problem for what it is in order for me to have a solution. And that was not sustainable. That was not, that wasn't going to work. So I decided to take control of it. Just let me take control. Let me be the one that actually makes these pads so that I get to decide where these pads go. And I then did my research, the manufacturing of pads, the costs, where, how, the machinery. I invested a lot of time and money in research and development. I traveled across the world. I went to different factories. I really did an extensive research. And I felt like, Black child, it's possible. You can do it and you will do it. I gathered up the strength, I gathered up the courage, and I just went for it. The reason I started this kind of business was because I wanted to be in control of the distribution of sanitary towels, where they go, who the beneficiaries are. I could no longer stand and I could no longer wait for society to firstly understand the problem for what it was before they could lend a hand. I felt that's not sustainable. So that's why I started this business. Entering into the sanitary towel space, manufacturing space, has always been a dream for me. For as long as, or rather, from the moment I started working with young girls in communities, understanding that there's a particular problem, that exists. Remember that most of us are very ignorant and unaware simply because of our exposure. You only know as much as you're exposed to. So it's been a good 5-6 years now, and when I got exposed to this space, or rather to this problem, I made it my personal mission to ensure that one day I become a manufacturer of sanitary towels. Simply because I could not I could not rely on people, on society, to become part of the solution, or rather to become instrumental in me finding a solution for menstrual hygiene management issues and problems and dynamics. I used to mentor girls. I used to run programs in townships, in small towns, in suburbs, in fact, everywhere. It wasn't really specific, but I used to run programs for young girls, mentorship programs. We used to help young girls with tutoring programs at some point. I used to do a lot of events, motivational talking, workshops, like I said, mentorship programs. And I'd often find myself missing a few girls on a very regular basis. And I then investigated, why is it that certain people, they come, they don't come, what's the issue? I then started, asking questions. And it came to my attention, it was brought to my attention that some of these girls, don't come to our sessions because sometimes they just don't have pads, they don't have sanitary towels. And I felt, for me, buying a pack of pads is really just the 20 Rand expense in a grocery trolley, that's full of things. So $20 is really not a big deal. How are these people not participating and, making use of the opportunities that we give them because they don't have pads? It did not make sense. I then started doing pad drive campaigns. I started doing events. I started getting people on board, getting people to donate, doing events, getting people to bring money, bring pads. We would then take the pads, then distribute in schools, distribute in communities. And it also came to a point where I didn't get support. And when I didn't get support, I took it very personal. I took it to heart. I lost a lot of friends in the process. A lot of relationships just collapsed because I could not understand why certain people could not support my cause. Like I said, I took it very personal, and I then told myself I will never subject myself and my girls to to such things, where we rely on people make promises, people make commitments, and they just don't honor the commitments. For them, it's just, it's neither here nor there. So I felt like people don't understand my vision, my mission, my agenda, my course, why I do what I want to do. And for me, that became a problem. So the only way to deal with it, the only way to find a solution to this problem is if I am in charge of the entire value chain, is if I make these pads myself, because if I make these pads, I get to decide where they go. I get to decide who benefits, obviously with the help of society, with the help of, organizations, government. But I'm essentially, I wake up in the morning and I work towards finding a solution for this, and it becomes a permanent solution because we're manufacturing, we're making. And more than just distributing these pads, it's an all-rounder. It's an all, it's a vertically integrated process and solution where we also get to create jobs for young women, because I also made it a mission and a personal, I made it my personal mission to employ women in the factory. So our pads are for women by women. So I'm essentially making it their responsibility as women to become part of the solution for other women. So it's an all empowering, all encompassing project that, number one, alleviates poverty. Number two, creates jobs for young women in our communities. Number three, deals with the issue of accessing sanitary towels, because we make these pads so we can give these pads, to people who need them the most. And number three, it's just a women empowerment program that teaches women and makes women understand that together, united, we can do more, So that's where it started. That's why I started it. And it's really important for me to carry on with the work that I'm doing, because I'm not only doing this for self-enrichment, I'm not doing this so I can be known as the first Black female too, the only Black female too, but I'm opening up industries for other young women coming behind me. I'm opening up industries for other young women who never thought that it would be possible, and it is possible, and that it can be done. So for me, it's very important. I feel like my win is everybody else's win, My success is everybody else's success. It's not about me, but it's about the agenda. It's about the course. It's about the mission, the vision. It's about what is it that we are trying to achieve as a collective. So it's really something that's very close to my heart. It's my legacy. And one day I want to be reminded as a young Black female who stood the test of time and who made it her personal mission to be selfless, and who concerned herself with the emancipation and empowerment of other women holistically. So that is my this is my legacy project. Yeah, I just want other women to know that it's possible. It can be done. If one could do it, we can all do it. And I am ready to walk the journey. I am ready to mentor. I am ready to show them the ropes. I am ready to walk this journey with them. And one day I will be ready to pass on the baton, because it's very important for us. We are at a point in a stage where as a country, as a people, as a race, we are trying to break boundaries. We're trying to get into certain industries, penetrate certain markets, and we can't do it if we are selfish and if we have the I, my mentality. But collectively, we can do more. So for me, that's essentially my legacy. Even if my name never goes down in the books of history, all those young girls that I enabled and I helped and I gave an opportunity for them to go to school, to pursue their dreams, to reach their dreams, for me, that's the most fulfilling thing ever, and nothing or no one will ever take that away, and I will forever pride myself in that. I will forever be grateful for the opportunity to have been part of that, and be grateful to God, first and foremost for giving me the strength, for giving me the wisdom Intelligence is something, but wisdom is another thing. And for helping me become a resilient young woman, for not giving up, even when times were tough, even when things were hard, for not giving up. Yeah, that's my legacy. I'm praying and hoping that other women feel the need to also stand up and to also become part of the solution for all social ills that exist, particularly ones relating to women. I'm sorry if that makes me a feminist. But, particularly for those that women are faced with, and for making it their mission to just be a part of the solution and coming up with solutions. I definitely saw sustainability. Women will forever be on their periods for as long as the female species exist. Women will forever bleed every month. It's a biological process, it's a natural process. It's not about to stop anytime soon. Remember that it's part of the reproductive system processes that need to take place. So God created man and woman for reproductive purposes. And for as long as women exist, and for as long as we have to be pregnant and carry kids, carry children, bear children, we will forever be on our periods. It's a biological process. With that said, I definitely saw sustainability because women will forever need pads. For as long as women exist, then I'm in the right space. I'm in the right business. So definitely saw sustainability. And over and above that, there's also advocacy work involved where we advocate and we force legislation to favor us as women, to not only favor women, but to also concern themselves with the rights of women across the globe. So firstly, we need to understand that the concept of menstruation is a biological, natural process. And women can therefore not be, excluded from society. Women cannot be shamed because of this thing. Because we can't afford it, it doesn't mean that people shouldn't concern themselves with understanding the process, understanding the problem, and being part of the solution. So the advocacy work is what makes this thing sustainable. The more we talk about it, the more we raise it, and the more we make our governments across the world understand that there are certain women in parts of the world that cannot protect themselves, that cannot access sanitary protection because of the high levels of poverty in which they exist in, and because of the makeup of the historical injustices we as women and we as a people have been exposed to. Because of those things, women cannot access sanitary protection, but it doesn't mean that we have to turn a blind eye. Something can be done about it. And for those women that cannot afford, our government must step up and must step in. So there's where the sustainability comes in, The fact that government is starting to understand, government is starting to listen, and government is starting to align themselves. They want to be part of the solution, and they're actually saying, look, for those women and young girls that can't afford, we as government will come in and will support. There is absolutely no reason why condoms should be free and sanitary towels aren't free. So with that said, there is definitely sustainability. Fortunately for me, I got funded. So the manufacturing business I got funding for, the ICT and OHS businesses I never got funding for, and the supplies I never got funded for. In fact, I faithed it till I made it. I invested heavily in my corporate identity. I invested heavily in myself as an individual, how I present myself, how I speak, how I walk, how I talk. I invested heavily in my branding, from a personal perspective and from a business perspective. I sold myself as a very ambitious person with big dreams and a game changer, and people believed in me. People bought into that. And when they eventually gave me an opportunity to prove myself, I did not disappoint. I came through, honey. So with that said, I didn't even need money to start my business. All I needed was people who believed in me, who believed in my craft, who believed in my potential to deliver. I built very good relationships with my creditors, who essentially gave me an opportunity to trade. Getting products on credit, delivering to the client pays, you pay your creditor, you repeat the process. So from a supplies perspective, I really didn't need to to get capital. The IT and the OHS are consulting businesses. You sell your IP, you sell your brains, you sell your time. That really doesn't necessarily require capital. For the longest time, I worked from my apartment. I didn't incur any office costs, any running costs. I built very good relationships with my business partner in the OHS business, who essentially had about 25 experience in the business and understood that I'm a young girl that's trying out and, that's trying to build something. So he was very instrumental in building the OHS business, because when we got paid, essentially then he also got paid. So I was never under pressure. I know that such arrangements don't come by easily, and it's not everybody that gets an opportunity to find themselves in such spaces, in such arrangements. But I was blessed enough with the right people, and these people essentially helped me grow and understood that I'm a startup, and as a startup I really don't have anything to offer but my time, but my brains, but my potential, and the ability to deliver more than anything. For me, it goes without question. Entrepreneurs are born, not made. Remember that entrepreneurship, more than anything, is a test of character. The reason I mentioned earlier that entrepreneurs will never fail is because entrepreneurs by nature are driven people. They're very persistent, they persevere, they don't give up easily, and they're always willing to bear risks. So the most important thing is to look at someone's personality and their ability to bear risks. The best entrepreneurs are not found in a business school. The person that's taken the entrepreneurship course is not necessarily the person that's going to be the most successful in the game. So we need to observe one's personality and one's ability to do certain things for us to determine whether or not they'll be good entrepreneurs. This thing their entrepreneurship genes, it really has nothing to do with that, guys. Entrepreneurs are different, they've got different characteristics, but the most successful ones always have similar traits, always have similar characteristics. You can't really make an entrepreneur. That's in my opinion. You can't really make an entrepreneur, and you can't really you can't really associate good grades in school, having achieved great academic results. It's never the case. It's more about who are the ones that are always willing to fight, who are the ones that are spending the most time grinding, long nights, early mornings. Who are the ones that just don't give up? Who are the ones that fall 7 times and get up 8 times? It's a test of character. So for me, I wouldn't necessarily say that entrepreneurship is a journey that one can just stumble into and believe that they can be made. For me, it's really about your character, your passion, your drive, your ambition, and understanding that the power to become a success story lies entirely and solely in your hands. So yeah, for me, that's my 2 cents. So for example, being an extrovert is one of the success factors for entrepreneurs. Although it doesn't really necessarily guarantee that you'll be a successful entrepreneur or motivate entrepreneurship, generally extroverts have an easier time making new connections, leading followers, and engaging in a wider community. Being able to sell yourself, being able to sell your business, being able to communicate, being able to articulate yourself in a particular way. It's one of the things that you're born with it. Nobody teaches you how to become an extrovert. It's who you are. It's you. And for me, it's a success factor because I personally am an extrovert and it has worked for me. I have gotten into rooms, I have spoken to people, and the way I carried myself out, the way I articulated myself, the way I spoke about my services, my products, that's what people bought into more than anything. So being an extrovert is something that one is not really taught. It's not something that you're taught, but you're born with it. So such personality traits and such characteristics contribute towards you becoming a successful entrepreneur. So you can't really teach this thing, you can go to school, get the grades, but you can't, it won't guarantee that you'll become a successful entrepreneur. However, formal education does increase the chances of you thriving in certain spaces. So with that said, entrepreneurs are definitely born, not made. And with leadership, it's a completely different story, because leadership has different dimensions. Leadership has different facets to it. Leadership has different layers to it, you know. A person can be trained and a person can be molded into a good leader. So yeah, that's the difference between the two. Resilience. I cannot stress the importance of being resilient in this industry. Manufacturing is new to us as Black people. It's new to us as Black females. You know, our counterparts have been in the space for centuries and centuries, and competing and getting to their level is not going to be an overnight thing. We shouldn't expect to parachute to those levels, number one. We shouldn't expect to be supported merely because we are Black, because of the color of our skins, or because of our gender. It is important for us as a country to understand the importance of advancing the agendas of Black people and Black females, but we cannot have a self-entitled mentality in this space, because quality is the most important thing. First and foremost, quality. So entrepreneurs in my industry have to be resilient. They have to be patient. They have to be willing to put in the hours. They have to be willing to put in the time and the money, resources that are needed, because there's a lot to learn. So with that said, investing in your business, investing in understanding your business, investing in research and development, traveling, you know, looking at best practices, looking at how other people are doing it in other countries, you know, learning from them, you know, falling, you know, getting the wrong quality, getting inferior quality materials that give you an inferior product, losing money, but still getting up and saying, you know what, I'm going to fight. I'm going to research. I'm going to look for supply until I find the one with the one supplier with the right quality. I'm just not going to give up. So being resilient and just, you know, having that fighting spirit in you. It's very easy to give up. I remember so many times I've wanted to give up. I've wanted to walk away because things were just not coming together, you know. At some point, I had so many machine breakdowns. You know, it was one thing after another. You know, certain parts I couldn't even get in the country. I would only get overseas. It was frustrating, but all of this is a learning curve for me, you know. And if I wasn't resilient, if I wasn't patient, if I didn't understand that it's a painful process and it's going to hurt, I would have given up, you know. So most of us, you know, we glorify entrepreneurship, yes, but we also romanticize it, you know. We also think that it's this amazing journey where you have so much money, you drive amazing fancy cars, you're wearing suits every day, and you're just winning in this life thing. That's not what entrepreneurship is. Entrepreneurship hurts. Everything that you do in life has to hurt. If it doesn't hurt, it's not going to be worth it. So understanding that it's going to hurt and it has to hurt. It's going to hurt your pocket. It's going to hurt your emotions. You're going to be emotionally drained. It's going to hurt. You know, so for me, resilience is the one thing that I feel entrepreneurs in my space, in my industry, you have to be resilient, guys. And you have to be patient. Remember, you're dealing with machinery. Essentially, this thing is a robot that is operated. You know, you press a button and you only pray and hope that the way it's been configured and wired, you know, things will go accordingly. Anything can go wrong at any given point in time. You're not dealing with something that you can manipulate, and you know, if things go wrong, it's a press of a button will fix it. You're dealing with a machine, you know, that is prone to factory faults, that is prone to breakdowns. You know, you're dealing with something that has to be serviced every now and then. So it will break. It will break down. And when it does, only resilience will keep you going. Resilience and patience, understanding that it's a challenge, but this challenge we will overcome. We just need to apply our mind. We need to be patient. We need to, you know, find solutions, apply those solutions and keep it moving. But if you're impatient, if you're looking for the overnight success, manufacturing is not for you, you know, because it's a process. It takes time. It's got its own things. It's got its own dynamics. So you have to be a resilient person in my industry. If you're not, you will easily walk away. Like I said, I've wanted to walk away so many times. It took me 7 breakdowns in 1 year. It took me having to pay for technicians coming in from China to come and fix my machine. It took me, getting orders and not being able to meet my orders because I couldn't produce. It took me so many challenges for me to understand that resilience is the name of the game. Resilience is one thing that's just going to, keep you sane. And having a bigger picture in mind, understanding that it's a journey. It's a journey. We're not rushing to a destination. You're not going to sprint in a marathon. You're not going to sprint in a marathon. So for me, that's just the one advice I would give entrepreneurs in my space. And understanding that we're new to this thing as Black people. We're still learning. And we're building and opening up industries for future generations. So with that said, we cannot give up. For me, a heroine is first and foremost a selfless woman that really fought for the emancipation, the empowerment of other women. A heroine is somebody that sacrificed their life, for the lives of other women. A heroine is somebody that said, I am fine, I am in an okay space, but because other women are not, I'm going to fight for those other women. And for me, my heroine is Winnie Mandela. Her resilience, her strength, her selflessness, her devotion and her contribution to the country and to women it was just exceptional. Winnie for me is one person I regard as a heroine, my heroine, and I can only wish to walk in her footsteps and be half the woman that she was. I relate to her so much. Every time I encounter problems, every time I encounter hardships, I go back to one of her books and I draw my strength from there. So Winnie for me is a heroine, and simply because she was a selfless woman, and she lived her life fighting for other women, empowering other women, and really just being the voice for women. So for me, look, Winnie is just amazing. If I were to go on about her, I would just, I wouldn't stop. But for me, she's a heroine, and first and foremost, because she was a selfless woman. And that's one thing I admire most about her. It takes you being selfless for you to understand that your course and your agenda has to multiply. Your course and your agenda has to benefit, or rather, the beneficiation of your course and your agenda has to multiply. For me, what I'm doing, I know for a fact that it benefits a lot of women. It translates into the empowerment of a lot of women. It positions a lot of women better. It puts them in a better position, and it enables them, to participate in whatever space they want to participate in, and it gives them hope at the end of the day. So for me, Winnie is my heroine, and simply because she was a selfless woman, devoted and dedicated to the emancipation of Black women and the empowerment of women.